what if the biggest obstacle standing between you and financial freedom isn't your annual salary? What if it's not the skyrocketing inflation, the volatile housing market, or whatever the Federal Reserve is doing with interest rates? What if the real bottleneck is sitting right between your ears?
It sounds like a cliche, right? Change your mind, change your bank account. But think about the numbers for a second. Every single day, millions of Americans pull 50-hour work weeks. They skip vacations, they upskill, they hustle, yet they're still living paycheck to paycheck, trapped in that exhausting, never-ending rat race. Meanwhile, you see others who seem to navigate economic downturns effortlessly, building wealth that lasts generations.
Exactly. And that brings up the ultimate question. What do they know that the rest of the world doesn't? Today, we're breaking down the DNA of financial behavior through the lens of one of the most controversial yet impactful personal finance books ever written, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But we aren't just giving you a generic book summary. We're diving deep into the core mechanics of the wealth mindset and how it applies to our modern economy.
Because, let's be honest, before you can restructure your investment portfolio, you have to restructure how you view money as a concept. By the end of this episode, you'll understand the exact psychological shift that separates those who work for money from those who have money working for them.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Allie.
If you are obsessed with personal growth, mastering financial intelligence, and breaking down the blueprints of world-changing ideas, you are in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our community of growth-minded thinkers.
Let's get into the meat of it.
Allie, when most people hear the word wealth, their minds instantly drift to tangible luxury. We think of a high net worth bank balance, a pristine mansion in the hills, or a garage full of sports cars. But Kiyosaki's premise is that wealth actually begins as an invisible framework before it ever manifests in reality.
Spot on. He frames this beautifully through the story of his two fathers. His biological father, Poor Dad, was highly educated, held a PhD, and climbed the traditional academic and career ladder. He did everything society told him to do, yet he constantly stressed about bills. On the flip side, his best friend's father, Rich Dad, never even finished 8th grade, but through practical financial literacy and leverage, he became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. Both men were brilliant, both worked incredibly hard, but their foundational blueprints regarding risk, security, and capital were worlds apart.
What I find fascinating is how this challenges the ultimate American myth. If I just make more money, all my problems will disappear. We see corporate executives, software engineers earning mid-six figures, and even lottery winners or professional athletes who bring in millions, yet they still wind up bankrupt. Why does a massive influx of cash fail to solve a financial crisis for so many?
Because a high income without financial literacy is just a faster treadmill. If your default setting is to spend everything you make, earning more money just means you buy bigger liabilities. Kiyosaki points out that the traditional education system trains us to be phenomenal employees, like specialists, lawyers, doctors, or engineers, but it completely ignores how money works after it hits your account. We are taught how to grind for a paycheck, but never how to make that paycheck grind for us.
Let's unpack that because this is where the wealth mindset gets practical. Kiyosaki defines assets and liabilities in a way that drove traditional accountants crazy at the time, but makes total sense when you look at cash flow.
Right. He strips away all the complex jargon. An asset is simply anything that puts money into your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. The middle class constantly buys liabilities, but mistakes them for assets.
And the biggest culprit here, the one that always sparks massive debates, is the primary residence. The traditional dream dictates that your house is your greatest investment. But under this mindset, until it's generating rental income that exceeds its expenses, it's a liability. The mortgage, the property taxes, the maintenance, they all pull cash away from you every single month.
Exactly. And a person with a poor or middle-class mindset focuses purely on the income column of their financial statement, which is their salary. When they want more money, they look for a raise or a second job. But someone with a wealth mindset focuses entirely on the asset column. They're looking at stocks, real estate, intellectual property, or automated businesses. They don't ask how much can I earn this month. They ask what income-producing asset can I acquire or build today that will buy my freedom tomorrow.
But let's call a spade here, Ollie. Making that pivot is terrifying for most people. Stepping away from the predictability of a biweekly paycheck and diving into investments or entrepreneurship requires confronting massive uncertainty. The book talks a lot about how emotion, specifically fear and greed, drives the economic cycle.
It really does. Fear keeps people trapped in jobs they hate because they're afraid they won't be able to pay their bills. Then, when they do get a bonus or a raise, greed and desire kick in, prompting them to immediately upgrade their lifestyle, like getting a newer car or a nicer vacation. This is the classic loop of the rat race. Wake up, go to work, pay bills, save the leftovers, repeat.
And the irony is, people think staying in that loop is the safe bet. But in today's landscape, with AI rewriting job descriptions overnight and entire industries shifting in a matter of months, relying on a single source of active income might actually be the riskiest financial strategy available.
Absolutely. The wealthy don't avoid fear, they manage it. They understand that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of the process. If an investment goes south, a poor mindset views it as a definitive sign to quit and say, see, investing is just gambling. A wealth mindset treats that loss as a tuition fee. They analyze the mistake, adjust their strategy, and keep moving forward.
So, how do we systematically deprogram ourselves from the corporate script we've been fed since kindergarten? Because it's deeply ingrained in us to look for security rather than opportunity.
It starts with the vocabulary and the questions we ask ourselves daily. One of my favorite takeaways from Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the subtle shift from saying, I can't afford it, to how can I afford it?
That is a massive psychological pivot. I can't afford it is a terminal statement. It closes down your brain, excuses you from taking action, and puts your mind to sleep.
Exactly. But asking how can I afford it instantly triggers your problem-solving mechanics. It forces you to think about creativity, scalability, and value creation. It changes you from a passive consumer into an active strategist. Your brain starts scanning the horizon for underrepresented niches, side hustles, or investment vehicles. You stop looking at the world through the lens of scarcity and start viewing it through the lens of leverage.
And that, ultimately, is what this entire philosophy boils down to. Wealth isn't a lottery ticket. It's not an overnight stroke of luck. It's a compounding interest of the mind. Just as a few dollars invested wisely over decades turns into a fortune, small daily shifts in how you perceive risk, time, and ownership compound into true financial autonomy.
Well said, Sarah. Before money ever shows up in your bank account, it has to exist in your standard of thinking.
We want to bring this conversation over to you now. What is one traditional belief about money? Maybe something your parents or teachers told you that you've had to completely unlearn as you've grown? Was it the idea that all debt is bad, or that a house is always your best asset?
Drop your stories and breakthroughs in the comments section below. We read through them and love seeing the insights this community brings to the table.
If you found value in today's breakdown, please hit that like button, share this episode with a friend who is working on their hustle, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the books shaping our world.
Until next time, keep learning.
Keep growing.
And remember, the way you manage your thoughts today completely dictates the financial reality you step into tomorrow. See you next week.